Hey everyone, welcome to Discard and Draw. I'm Tank. This is my brother Steel. And I don't know about any of you guys, but growing up, we really enjoyed playing games like Civilization 2. And so today, we're going to be reviewing a Civilization building game, Nations. This is a great game. Steel, tell us a little bit about this game.
Well, like you said, it's a Civilization type game where you pick one of the countries like China, Egypt, something like that, and you go through the ages. That's a different game, but you go through the ages of time and build your empire. And you can build wonders and buildings and get people, and it's a fun game. We just need to open it up and take a look.
All right, let's do it. So this is a setup for 2 players. This game plays up to 5. And one of the points in this game's favor is it has my favorite color, purple. Game developers, if you want me to like your game, make sure you got purple as a player color. Now, one of the first things you're going to do is pick your player board. Each player board has 2 sides. One side is the same for every player board. You all start with the same stuff. The other side gives you different starting abilities, different buildings to start out with, and is unique for each nation. And there's 5 nations in this game, in the base game. There is an expansion that adds 12 nations, but they're on 6 player boards. So they're double-sided, so basically there's like 2 nations that can't play against each other, essentially, in the expansion. But it still adds a nice amount of variety. So once you pick your player board, the next thing you're going to do is pick your difficulty. This game actually has a difficulty rating so that people of different skill levels can try and play more evenly. So you start out the easiest being Chieftain, then it goes to Prince, King, and Emperor, which also kind of reminds us of Civilization because there were some similar ratings in the difficulty in that game. So for an easier game, you're going to pick Chieftain. If you want to make it a little bit harder on yourself, you might pick King or even Emperor. So let's say we do that as our difficulties. So after you do that, you randomly determine who's going to be first player, second player, etc. We've already done that. So I got the second player. Steel is going to be first player. And you get these neat little cards. They have, 1 through 5. And on the other side it says passed for when you pass at the end, when you're done with the round. So on your player board, you're going to have spots for some of your meeples at the bottom here. These are future workers you can get, essentially. You're going to start with the uniform side, you're going to start with 5 workers. The other sides will have, at least one of the nations has an extra worker that he starts with. So you always want to check that number, make sure that you have the right number of workers to start with. The bottom is also going to tell you how much of each resource you're going to start with. Again, playing with this side, you're going to start with the same amount of everything. If you use the other sides, they're going to be different for each nation. So in this example, we each start with 3 food, which is this neat little grain sort of token there. 6 ore, which is this neat little rock here. 6 gold, nice little gold piece there. And then 7 victory points. You actually start with victory points in this game because you can lose them. And that's these neat little, these little laurel. I really like the way it's cut in the shape of the icon. It's really neat. With all of these, they all do that, which is really neat. I like that. I think that's cool. So once we're all set up there, you can actually start going through the round of a game once you've determined player order. So the first thing you're going to do in a round is move the round marker, which is this neat little white cylinder. It's slightly larger than all the other ones for some reason, I guess to make it easy. But I mean, it's white anyway, so I don't... But, so you start with this white token. That's the first thing you do in a round is move it. And you actually play 8 rounds in this game. And every 2 rounds you do a score... I don't want to call it a scoring round, but you score some points after every 2 rounds, essentially, based on how many... They're book icons, but it's like culture, essentially. Based on whoever's ahead in culture will score some victory points. And you do that every 2 rounds. So the first thing you're going to do is move it to the next round on the board here, which for us is the first round, which is the Age of Antiquity, which is Age 1, round A. So that's the first thing you do. Then you are going to refill the progress board. This is all the cards you're going to be buying. You start with, again, there's 8 rounds. Every 2 rounds is an age. So there's 4 ages to go through, and there's a deck for each age. And so we start with Age 1, and you start by, I don't know that it really matters what order you fill them in, but I've been doing it bottom to top, so I don't know that it matters. It's going to be random either way, so. It matters later, but this first round, I don't think it matters. So you just fill in all the space. Now, the board is divided up. Here it says 3 plus, 4 plus, and 5. And so those are spaces you would use with that many players. So for 2 players, we're only using a little bit more than half the board. So, with cards. After you do that, you perform the growth step. There are 2 parts to this step. You get to pick which one you do. You can either take a new worker from your reserve and add it to your worker pool, or you can take a number of resources equal to the number next to your difficulty, and it's either going to be ore, gold, or food. So you get to pick. You would pick one of those, and so for me, for example, if I'm playing on King, I would take 2 of whichever one I picked, and you can only pick one of the 3 resources. You can't mix and match and get like 1 gold and 1 ore. Once you decide on that, you each make your decision. We do it in player order. Again, I don't know if it matters or not, but it might in some games, so just follow player order if you're not sure. So you'd pick either, do I want a worker? And when you pick a worker, this is actually divided in half. Half of it is underneath the left half. You'll see a spot where your worker used to be, and it says -3 food. And the other side is the same thing, but it has -3, and it's got a set of scales. That is this track here, which is your stability. So taking a worker is either going to cost you food or stability each round. So that's something to take into account when you're taking workers off. The first round, you may not want to do that. You may want to just get some resources. Other than that, you're free to make whichever decision you want. Once you've decided what you want, everyone's taken what they want. You go on to the next step, which is the new event step, and that's what these decks are. These are your event decks. Now you're only going to be getting 2 cards for each age out of these decks every time you play the game. And there's a pretty good number. There's 8 here in each deck. So there's a good bit of variety in this game as far as the events goes, because you're only getting 2. There's 8 in there, and there's actually even more than that. We haven't talked about the advanced cards yet. We'll get to that later. So you're going to take the top card of whatever age you're on and flip it face up in this little spot here for the event cards. So these cards have 4 things on them that you're going to be looking at. First, you're going to be looking at these icons here, which these are called the architects. After you flip your new event, the next step is adding architects to the board. That's this space here, and that's these little brown cubes here. So you are going to add a number of these to this is like the available pool for the round. You can only get what's in the architect pool. Those are the only ones you can use that round. Each round you're going to get a number based on the number of players. So for a 2-player game, you're going to get 1.
At least 1.
And then you get up to 3 based on what the card says. This particular card has a 1 on it, so we would add a second architect to the pool. So we have 2 available this round, essentially. And these are used to build wonders. And we'll get into that in a minute. The other thing you're going to be looking at on this card is this little food icon here. This is going to be the famine that is going to happen at the end of the round. So you're going to want to have enough food to cover that loss, because there's not any way to really prevent that. And if you can't pay it, then you take penalties and stuff. And we'll get into that later. And then there's also 2 events that are going to happen. Again, this is at the end of the round, after you're done doing all your actions and stuff. These 2 things are going to happen. And so in this example, we've got Assyrian deportations, which is whoever has the least military at the end of the round is going to essentially lose a worker, put them back in their pool. And then the bottom half says Jain asceticism. Yeah. And that is the person with the most stability is going to regain all of their victory points lost to war this round. And we'll get into all that later. But essentially, these are the 2 events that are going to happen at the end of the round. And each round, you're going to have a new card drawn. It's going to be something new. And it's going to be... this whole game is based on who has the most of things and who has the least of things.
So after all that comes the action phase. And there are 3 things you can do on the action phase. And basically during the action phase, we're going to go back and forth until one of us passes, or both of us passes, actually. But there are 3 things you can do on your action phase. The first thing you can do is you can buy a card from this board here. And it's pretty straightforward. The bottom row costs 1, middle row costs 2, top row costs 3.
Gold.
Gold. Of course, if you didn't know what money really was in life.
You can't pay on resources.
Right, you can't pay in resources. Gold, it's right there on the board, right in yellow and black and kind of tannish.
There's an orange in there.
Yeah.
There's some orange in there. Yeah.
So the second thing you can do on your action phase is deploy your meeple. And to do that, you just place it right on your board. But you got to pay. And the beginning board spaces all cost only 1 ore to place your meeples. The cards...
It's got the cost right there at the bottom.
Right. The cost will go up as the ages go on. So when you place one of your meeples on your board on one of the 5 spaces, either blue or red, there are a potential of 6 different icons that can appear on the space, and there'll be 2 of one of the 6 of them. And basically those are resources you will get during the resolution phase, and if there is a circle next to it, you get that at the end during the resolution phase. If there is a box next to it, that happens immediately. And that basically tracks with, how many people you have on that board, and that happens right away. And if you lose a guy, that happens right away too. It's instant.
Yep.
So, for instance, the Axeman has a box next to combat. So, if you placed your meeple on him, you would automatically, right away, get 2 combat. Mm-hmm. And you would have 2 combat until you took that meeple off.
Mm-hmm. And you can remove meeples at any time as a free action. It doesn't cost anything to do that.
Right.
Steel, tell us how the colonies work when you buy them.
The colonies are funny. I don't like them.
I like them.
I know. That's why I don't like them, because he usually wins because he gets them.
Because they're fun. They're awesome. You get to go conquer places.
You go and you conquer these places.
You still pay the
money.
The money.
It's just like getting a normal card.
But you gotta have...
But you have to have a great enough combat military.
Yep.
When
you buy it.
To be able to conquer it, yes. There are a couple other different cards that you can buy, and we'll talk about them now. The one card is these orange cards, which are advisor cards. Mm-hmm. You purchase them and slide them on right up in that spot. And most of them, well, all of them will give you some kind of benefit. Either, like this is Augustus here, he gives you a immediate increase to your combat of 1. And if you have the most combat during the production phase, which is in the resolution phase, you get 2 ore for free. That's pretty cool. But some advisors, you actually can lose. Some will say if you don't have the most stability or combat,
or if you have the least
of something, you lose it. You lose that person and they're gone.
Yep.
That's it.
And anytime you replace a card, the card under it goes away. So
right.
If you lose a card, you just don't have anything there
right.
at all, even if you had something previous to that card.
Right.
It's just all gone.
Right. Because once you buy another card to go on top of it, it's just
Yep.
it's just gone. The next card we'll talk about are these gray battle cards. You buy it and you get one of these three resources: books, food, or ore, and you get that equal to, if you have a meeple on a military card, it's this little number symbol right here that looks like it's kind of on fire.
Yeah.
On the Axemen, it's a 2.
Yep.
And so you would get 2 of one of those resources after you bought this card. You say, okay, I got an Axeman. I want 2 ore.
Mm-hmm.
You get 2 ore. This gets discarded, and you go on your merry way. And it's next person's turn.
And the number in the Axemen, it's not 2 for every meeple. It's just 2 period. If you have at least one
Right.
meeple, it doesn't add up. So you wouldn't.
It's just whatever that card says.
Yeah,
that
if you had
have.
like 2 on here,
Yeah.
you wouldn't get 4 for taking this. You'd still just get 2.
Right, and then it kind of says that because it's just times that symbol on the card, so it's just whatever that symbol.
But everything
is.
else multiplies by how many people you have.
Right, the
That's
resources
the
up
only thing that
top,
does it.
yeah.
So
Well, that's why it's different. That's why they didn't do it by those numbers, I guess. But
yeah,
But yeah.
because otherwise it probably would be your military.
right, so don't cheat. Stop cheating, you guys. So the next card we'll talk about are these yellow golden ages. These are neat little cards. You buy them, and you can either get 2. This card in particular, 2 or you may pay 1 resource to get a victory point. That's pretty cool.
That is cool because there's not a lot of ways to get victory points in this game.
Not straight up like that. No.
We haven't really talked about the victory points in this game. This is a low victory point game. You're going to be in the 20 to 40 range at the end of the game.
Yep.
Most games.
But the interesting thing about the victory points, to me, I think, is basically you add up like literally everything, all your tracks, your at the end of the game, your combat, your stability, your books, whatever resources you have left. You count literally everything, and then divide that by 10, and you get that many extra victory points. And that's I think this is the only game where I've seen where you literally count everything.
Yeah, you can get victory points from anything in this game.
This game has a great player aid.
It does. It really does.
It's fantastic.
This is a fantastic player aid. It's solid cardboard, so it's not going to get like bent or something real
You
easily.
can throw it at somebody and it'll hurt them.
Yeah, you can take an eye out with this.
Be
Player aid,
careful.
man. Telling you.
Ages 12 and up.
That's right.
Probably. I don't know.
I'm sure it's on the box somewhere.
Somewhere. It's at the beginning of the video.
It is.
But this is a nice player aid. It's got the round summary on the front. It even has the pages in the book that explain these phases.
Yeah, it does. Yep.
I don't think I've seen that before.
Not on a player aid.
Not on a player aid. So it's very easy to tell where you're at, what to do next. And then the back, like I said, it's the scoring summary. You got...
Which, honestly, the scoring is so easy in this, you almost don't even need it.
Yeah, you really don't.
But it's cool that it's there.
Right.
You know, because then you can go, if you're playing with someone new, that person's like, okay, how do you score victory points? Flip your player aid over. That's how. Right there.
Which is basically, A is these things that you have.
Yep.
B through D are your cards, if they give you any. And then E is what I just talked about, is adding up
all the other resources.
all of the 6 icons, basically, that I talked about earlier. Add them all up, divide it by 10, add that to your score.
Yep.
And that's it.
There's 2 other kinds of cards that you can purchase in this game. The first one is something that gets me really excited because I love doing this in games. And that's wonders. You can build wonders in this game. For example, the Colosseum. And I would like to point out another neat part about this game that we haven't mentioned yet. A lot of these cards, the ones that aren't like buildings and military units, all the ones that are like the battles, the Golden Ages, the leaders, the colonies, the wars, the wonders, they all have a year and a country at the top of it for if you want to know, like, what's this from? Where's this from? Who built this? What year was this built in? That kind of thing. They've got it right there at the top of right above the name of the card is the year and what country it is in, or it was built in.
Or what kind of a war it was.
Yeah,
The Siege of Troy, which says it's
that's a battle.
Well, it's the battle. It's 1184 BCE, Hellenic states versus Troy.
Yep.
That's pretty cool.
So this is, a neat. It's got some history. It's got some educational stuff to it.
Yeah, you might learn something.
Yeah, might learn a few things. So like the Colosseum, if I wanted to build this, 80 CE in Rome. I'm not playing Rome and playing Egypt, but maybe Egypt builds the Colosseum this time instead of Rome. So I pay my gold, and this doesn't get built right away. This goes. You have a spot on your board that says Wonder under construction. So you put that guy right there. He's under construction, and then that's your action, and then your opponent would go. All your opponents go. It comes back to you. You want to build that wonder. You want that thing to be complete because wonders are similar to colonies. They give you some kind of bonus, and you don't have to put meeples on it. It's just an automatic bonus for the rest of the game that you get. And most of them also give you victory points, too, at the end of the game, just for building it. But not until you build it. So how do you build it, you might ask? Well, let me tell you.
This is going to bring us to the third thing we can do on our action.
That's right.
Tank, what is it?
That is to hire an architect. And that's what these cubes are for that we talked about earlier.
And it says it right on the player aid.
It does. It's a good player aid.
Because it's a good player aid.
So as an action, you can, if there's cubes left in here, you can take one of them, only one per action, and use it to build a stage of your wonder. You put it right on the first, it goes left to right. You put it right on the first stage, the farthest left one that's not covered.
Right.
And then you pay the cost underneath it, which is going to be an ore. And you pay that cost. So in this case, it would be 2. I'd pay 2 ore for it. And then that stage is built. And then that's the end of my turns. Then Steel would go again, come back to me. I still want to build this. So I'd have to take another architect.
Well, in an instance like this, there's no other wonders out there, so why would I can't get an architect,
Yep.
So...
You can't use it. It's not like you can steal them from
and
me.
you can't just take them if you don't have anywhere to put them.
Yeah.
If you don't have a wonder, you can't just take them just to kind of mess with the other person and be like, oh, now you can't build it.
That would be nice, but
It would help.
if you liked a lot of player conflict, you know?
It would help, but in this instance, it actually kind of makes sense.
If you did have a wonder, we'd be fighting over those. Neither
right.
one of us would probably be able to build the wonder this round.
Well, not with only 2 of them.
So, again, you would use another action to take another architect. Boop, put it right there on that little spot there. Pay the resource cost, which in this case, again, is 2 ore. Sometimes the cost is actually 0 for certain stages.
Yep.
That we've seen that in some of the wonders. One of them was like, the first stage was like 3, the second stage was 0, and then the third one was like 1 or 2.
1 or 2, yeah.
So that's possible. That you might not even pay anything.
Yep.
But once you've filled in all of the spots on the stage, these go back into the unavailable pool. And then this is now built, and you would move it down into your row of completed wonders. Now you've got spots for 5 on the A side of the board, the uniform side. Some of the other B side colonies have more spaces.
Some have more, some have less.
Yeah, some have less. Yeah,
because some will have maybe 3 colonies instead of 2, and then I'll take a wonder space. And
some have one of them has 1 colony.
One of them has 1 colony.
You have an extra wonder space.
Yep.
So once you build it, you get its effect immediately. So sometimes they'll say things like, when ready, do this. And that means when you've built it. When you've built it, you do the when ready stuff right away. In this case, it's not a great thing. This one says when ready, I lose 2 food. So I'd have to pay 2 food. And if I couldn't, I'd incur a penalty and I'd lose a victory point. So I want to make sure I can pay those costs before I build it. Now, after I've built it, I get whatever bonus it's going to give me for the rest of the game. In this case, it would be 3 military. So I'd get 3 permanent military for the rest of the game.
Yep.
As far as I know, you cannot destroy wonders. I should mention that you're not going to go through an entire age deck in one game unless you're playing with like 5 players. So the last card that you can buy that we're going to talk about, and it's the last type of card in the game, is war. You can start a war.
Why would you do that?
Steel hates war. Because he says, what is it good for? And I answer him with making my opponent lose victory points.
He's right.
So when you start a war, this is the way it works. There's no direct player conflict in this game. It's like indirect. It's like, I started a war, but...
It could potentially affect literally everybody.
Or no one.
Or no one.
So there's, and it just... So the way it works is you buy a war card, okay? You put it here on the board where it says war, and you take the war disc, which is slightly,
a very technical term.
It is.
That the game uses.
And it's a little bit bigger than the regular discs. It's not. It's the same height, but it's a bigger...
The circumference is slightly larger.
So whoever buys this war takes the black disc and puts it where their military marker currently is. And at the end of the round, anyone who is below that mark is affected by the war. Anyone who's above it is not affected. So in this particular war, the Wars of Alexander, anyone who is lower than the mark at the end of the round is going to lose a victory point and lose 2 food because of that war.
Yep.
Now, granted, you have the rest of the turn to try and get your military up above where the war is.
Right.
And you might, the person who's buying it might not even buy it until their military is like up here somewhere, depending on what age you're in, And that's the other thing is that if I buy it, I put it here, I could potentially go down and be affected by the war I bought.
Right.
If I let that happen somehow.
Yep.
And then... steel could go up above, and then I just ruined myself by buying war.
Yep.
So that's possible, so you gotta be careful with that.
The good news is you can hack war. That's right. You can hack war.
This isn't cyber war.
No, but you can still hack it. And here's what you do. Let's say a war hasn't been started yet. So your opponent, he's getting up there in his military. That's not good.
As I did in that one game we played.
Yes, that's not good. So what I did was there was a card down. For me, it was down during our game. It was down it only cost 1, right? So I said, pfft. And I think I was going first somehow. Maybe not. I don't know. Or you did something else. You weren't paying attention. So I was like, I hope it doesn't buy that. So what I did, I bought it for 1. I got lucky. Started it. I was at 0. I said, boom. That's where the war is. At 0. And from that spot, nobody will get affected by it.
Yeah.
Because you can't go lower than 0. There's no way to go lower than 0, so...
You have to be below the war marker for it to actually affect you. So if you're at it or higher, which obviously you're going to be if it's at 0...
Yep.
Then you don't got to worry about it.
That's right.
And this can be a way to avoid war altogether. If you get nervous, if you think someone's going to buy it, and you just want to avoid that altogether.
And even if there's 2 wars out, as soon as one war started, somebody else can't buy another war.
Nope.
War at that point, war's done.
Yep, for that round.
You can't replace war at all. You can't be like, somebody else buys a war. And like, I bought another war. It's way up here now. No, you can't do that because there's already a war going on.
Yep.
And it's at 0.
Yep.
It's the French war because it's neutral. Or they give up or whatever it is. But that's a way you can hack war.
Yep. And we should also mention that if you are affected by a war, let's say I did somehow do this, okay? Steel's affected by war. He's going to lose that victory point no matter what. That's going to happen. However, he may not lose the resources listed at the bottom here. Now, for every point of stability you have, you subtract that number from how much resources you lose for war. So if Steel had 2 or more stability, he would not lose any food for this war. He would just lose the 1 victory point. And so that's a way to mitigate war even more.
Right.
If you're just like, I can't stop this war, it's gonna happen. I can mitigate some of the resource loss, though.
Right. And if you're not focusing on military, you probably should focus on, either books, but while with books, you should be doing stability at least.
Yeah.
Because that is something that will help against war. And the other thing is cards like this event card that we talked about earlier, where if you have the most stability, you regain all of the victory points you lost from war.
Yeah.
So this war could really not affect me at all.
Yeah.
At the very end of the whole of the end of the round.
In this situation, if this event were up and you managed to get, let's say, 6 and I was at 3,
Right.
I
wouldn't lose any food.
You wouldn't lose any food.
I would technically lose a victory point.
But
then as soon as the event happened, which is after war,
yep,
I would get the victory point back.
Yeah.
Because I have the most stability.
Yep.
So that's a way around it too, I guess.
Yeah.
Now if the event card helps.
That one doesn't always happen.
Right, that's not always the case with the event cards. But that is always the case with the resources.
Yeah.
Though. The resource, that's all the time.
Yep.
Stability minus resource equals what you actually lose.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so stability can help you if you're not focusing on military.
Right.
So.
And your stability doesn't go down, you don't subtract 2. You just mental math, and if you're not left with a negative number, then you...
The only way you lose stability is if you lose it off of your cards, basically.
Right.
So, yeah. So once everyone has passed during the action phase, and everyone's done, you've used up all your resources, you have nothing else to do, you pass, you are going to move on to the resolution phase. Now, there's 5 to 6 phases to the resolution phase. But they're real quick. I mean, it's super quick. So the first one's production. All your guys that are on your board, wherever they may be, produce the resources that are in a circle in red on your board. And you actually do it in a specific order that's listed on your player aid. You start with gold, then food, then ore, then books. In that order. And any numbers in black are losses, and so you just basically even. So, if I had this, let's say, I produce 2 food here, and I lose a food for my axeman, so I'd produce 1 overall. So, after you do that, and make sure you count your colonies and your wonders, too, when you're doing all this. Because, again, these don't need, and your advisors, they don't need meeples on them to produce, they just automatically do stuff for you. As long as they're built in the wonder case. So after you do all your production, you get all your stuff, you get all your resources, you pay any resources that you need to pay, which, again, if you do not have enough to pay any costs you have, you are going to incur a penalty, and the way it works is you basically pay in books the number of resources you can't pay and whatever else you can't pay.
And you lose a victory point.
And you lose a victory point. Well, just one.
Just one.
Not one for every resource you couldn't pay, just 1 victory point.
You just lose a victory point in general, basically, because you can't pay for something, and then you basically pay in books.
Yeah.
So.
And then if you can't pay in books, you pay in some other type of resource.
Right. You're getting rid of something.
Yeah.
But books goes first.
But you only lose 1 victory point.
Right.
It won't make you lose more than 1. So.
Right.
But
if you can't pay your ore and your food,
yeah.
You're just going to lose the 1 victory point and then pay it in books and move on.
Yep. Now, if you are in revolt and you have negative stability, you are actually going to lose books during production equal to however many negative points in stability you have. And you're going to lose a victory point for that, too. So after you do that, you determine player order for the next round, which is basically just whoever has the most military goes first. It's as easy as that.
Yep.
So you'll do that. So in this case, oh, look, I'm going first next round. So then you would do, you'd switch the cards. Switch the cards around. Then you do war, resolve war. Boom, war happens. You know, anyone lower is going to lose victory points and resources. Anyone higher is going to not get affected at all. Then you do the events. And so this is where you'd start with the top one and go to the next one. So in this case, the least military, which would be steel, would have to return to, one of his workers. And you start with like 8 spots for these guys on the bottom. If you have to return one and all these are full, it basically still goes there. You just, like, when you get it back, you don't incur any kind of penalty for having it, like you would normally. Because you're just basically getting back your starting guys. Right. And then after that, you do famine, which is you pay the food costs listed at the top of the card. Actually, in this case, there is no famine this round. We got a 0 on the card for the famine right there. Now, normally this will be a negative number next to the food icon. You do have to pay that at the end of the round, but this particular card, there's no famine.
So it could potentially be no famine, as we've seen right here.
So after you do that, you would basically go back up to the top of the round. The top, we'd go to the next round, basically. Because this is the first of 2 rounds in the first age. After the second round, after round B in age 1, we do, at the end of the resolution phase, there's a score phase at the very end. Which is essentially, it's based on books. So if, let's say, Steel's ahead on books, he scores a victory point for every player that is less than him on the book track. So,
unfortunately, in a 2-player game, you're only going to get 1.
Yeah. So at the end of every second round, you're going to do one of these scoring rounds where you basically just check your books, and whoever has more than someone gets victory points.
Check the books.
Yep. When you go to a new round, during the progress cards step, what you do is you actually take the first 2 rows worth of cards, no matter how many are left, and they get discarded. All of them. The top row gets moved down to the bottom row, and then you would fill in all the empty spaces, essentially, with whichever deck you're drawing from at the time. So, round B of age 1, we'd still be drawing age 1 cards. And then during, the medieval age, we'd have probably a few age 1 cards down here, and we'd fill in with age 2 cards and so forth. And so that's how it works. So you actually get rid of 2 sections worth of cards. And, even if you're playing with like 5 people, you could get rid of a whole bunch of cards could just go. So at the end of the game, once you've gone through all the rounds, you do your final round of scoring at the end of the last age there. You're going to add up your victory points. You add up all your tokens. You add up the victory points any colonies you have give you. You add up your victory points from your wonders. And then you add up victory points from these buildings. Now, the way the buildings work is you get victory points for the meeples on them, but only a certain amount. And it's based on the building. So, for example, the start buildings are all laid out the same way. You get 1 victory point for having 1 meeple on there. If you have any more than 1 meeple on there, they don't give you an extra victory point. Now, the later age cards, like let's use this one for example, the Cossack. There's a whole, what you see like 4 meeples on the bottom. There's victory points on above them. So you can potentially get victory points for up to 4 meeples on this card, and you start left to right. So the first one you put on here is going to give you 1. And then numbers 2, 3, and 4 are each going to give you 2 victory points for this card. And they're all like that. They all, as you go up in age, there's going to be more victory points for having more meeples on there. But the base ones don't give you a lot, which is why you want to buy new ones. So you add those up, and then you also, as Steele said, you add up your gold, your food, your ore, your books, your stability, and your military. All those numbers, you add them all up and divide that number by 10, and you get that many victory points. You fill that, you got this nice little, okay, not little, but this nice score pad comes with the game, and it's got a spot for each of those things we just talked about. You add them all up, put the score on the bottom, whoever's got the most wins, and another thing I'd like to point out about this score pad that I think is neat is that the top part has basically this in it, and you can like fill in which difficulty you played at on that game to track that too, which is kind of cool. You know, I didn't know what that was at first, and then I realized, oh, it's the difficulty. Okay, so that's kind of neat too, and it's a big score pad too. It's
So Tank, I hear you talking a lot about how many cards are in this game.
yeah, there's a lot.
And yeah, there's a lot. What do you think about these cards? What do you think about all this whole game?
I'm gonna be honest with you.
What's going on here?
I'm gonna be real honest with you. I want to put this out there because this a lot of videos I've watched don't really talk about this very much. This game makes me angry. This game makes me really angry because here's the thing. All right?
Yeah.
I like this game.
Yeah.
This is a cool game. But I have problems with it. My first problem is the actual gameplay. It's a civilization building game. I don't really feel like I'm building a civilization.
Yeah, I agree
know?
with that.
I
I don't feel that either.
You're not adding more to your civilization. You're just changing it.
Yep.
I mean, yes, you add colonies.
Colonies, advisors, wonders, I guess.
Yeah.
But it's not like civilization games like you know expand and grow and explore.
You get bigger. There's more buildings.
Yeah.
There's more to do.
Yeah,
It doesn't
really
necessarily
play like that.
feel like that. Now, I mean, yes, the cards get better, and that's cool. It really feels more like upgrading than it does expanding.
It's just all upgrades.
Yeah.
Really.
So, you know, that aspect made me a little sad because I was expecting an empire building game, and it's not exactly an empire building game because because these can go up and down the whole game.
Yep, the whole game.
It's not like they steadily grow. You could,
Yeah.
you could be all over the board on this thing. So, except for maybe even the books can go down
True.
if with the right.
If you're doing
cards
bad
on it.
enough.
Yeah. So that made me a little sad. Now I'm still fine with that. You know, that's not a big deal. It was a minor nitpick. I was like, oh, okay.
It just doesn't make it a true Civ building.
Yeah.
Game. It just makes it a different. It just makes it a more Euro.
But there's
game.
enough cool mechanics in it that I still enjoy it.
Yeah, it's still a good game.
It's still a fun game to play. But my main beef with this game,
Here we go.
this is the main one, is the production value on this game.
For
Because
shame.
it's such a fun game, it looks ugly. It's ugly to look at.
Mm-hmm.
And I hate saying that because I like this game. But look at it! These drawings look like pencil drawings done by a third grader. It looks like a rough draft. It doesn't look like a final product. The only thing that looks good is the cover, which looks good. It's a good looking cover. I'm okay with the cover.
Yeah.
But it feels like they blew their budget on the cover and they used it in everything. It's on the board. It's on the back of the cards.
It was like they got a good artist, and
They can only afford one
He
picture.
did the cover for free and was like, "Yeah, this is what I can do, but everything else is going to cost this much money." And they're like, "Ooh,
Yeah.
we don't have that much money. We're just going to take that box and run."
And they gave their buddy in production the card on the rest of the cards.
Yeah, and they said, "Hey, kid,
It
here's
looks-
some colored pencils."
It's like look at the face on it. It just looks like I could have done better. I'm not that great of an artist. I feel like
I probably could not have done better, but I don't know. I could have gotten close.
It just feels like amateurish. The art does. Besides the cover. Cover's the only good part. And, this guy, he's not on the cover, but he looks like he was done by the same guy that did the cover.
Yeah.
He's here and he's like in the rule book and that's like it. So...
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with the pictures.
I don't know. And it just looks so... Look at that Axeman. That Axeman is ugly looking.
Yeah.
It really looks like a kid did that.
Look at him holding the shield.
I know,
his
his
hand's all weird.
It's all bulging up and stuff. It looks
He's all
weird.
like, just...
And I mean, we talk about the production. I love these pieces. These are cool. I love them.
Yeah, they cut them very well.
They're all cut.
And they're all cut
cool,
into
the shape
shapes.
of the different things I love that. I think that's great. But it's such an ugly game to look at. And then the worst part about it's talking about production is how you determine which cards are advanced and expert. They've got this little itty bitty, because the cards are already small, icon on the corner of the card where certain colors, because there's two different icons. One's like a blue plus sign and the other's a red X. And certain colors, it's hard to tell that it's there. I mean, I actually accidentally shuffled in one of the blue plus ones into the Age 1 deck the first time we played because I didn't notice it. Because it wasn't very visible because of the way the colors work in this game. And they're just like... The other problem with that symbol is that apparently they didn't size it properly, so when the cards were cut, it like cut off half of the symbol on some of them. So you're getting half of a symbol in the corner of the card, and it's tiny enough as it is without the card being small. And then they did like some of the cards they like put it on the inside instead of on the corner. I was like, why couldn't they do that with all of them? What was the problem? And then there was one somewhere where it like moved it into a weird spot. It was like up in like the top part for some reason on like one or two of the cards. That's confusing because you're like, I'm expecting to see it down here and it's up here and it's like what? So it's just they could have done this in all of them instead of this little half a symbol that got chopped off that you can't see without some type of magnifying glass because of how small it is. And that's just amateurish, and I'm sorry. And like I said, I like this game. This is a fun game. I would play this game anytime. This is great. It just looks so bad. It could have looked so much better than it does, and the symbols could have been done better to determine the advanced and expert cards. That could have been way better than what it is. And it makes me sad that they couldn't do that better.
That's something so basic. You'd think they would be able to get it right, or at least good.
And the other thing is this game, folks, this is a great game. I like it. This game retails at $100. $100. Let me show you something here. I'm going to show you something. This is the inside of the box. This is how much space is actually used. Besides the fact that the boards are oversized, which they didn't have to be. They could have been folded or something.
Yeah, they could have folded.
The box could have been probably half the size. Look at how deep it is. To make it look like it's worth $100.
Yep.
Not a $100 game. I would maybe pay $60 to $70 for this. So my recommendation, I do recommend this game if you can get it at a decent price. Maybe eBay or you get lucky on Amazon maybe.
Take it off a bum or something.
Something like that,
Just run real fast. I don't know.
Now, like I said, I like it. It's a good game. It's just there's a lot of problems that could have been avoided. And I'm kind of sad about that because I like it so much. I wish it was better. I wish it was what it could have been. And it's just aggravating. But I mean it's one of those things where I can look past that stuff and enjoy the game and play it.
Well, yeah, it doesn't take away from the enjoyment of the game.
Because the gameplay is solid.
It's just you look at it and
I don't even want to look at the cards.
I mean, honestly, it's probably a good thing they made the cards really small because the pictures do look bad.
Yeah.
Because honestly, I don't really look at the pictures all that much because they're small.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really. I mean, you don't really. I guess you don't really notice how bad it is unless you really look at them.
Yeah, unless you really look at them.
Because they're so small.
I mean,
but I don't know. Maybe that's why they made the cards small. I don't know. But
that could be. I mean,
but they all look like little pencil sketches that, the guy's buddy's wife's friend did.
Yeah.
That is trying to be an art major and he's 15. So I mean he's on his way to a good career because they're, he's got the basics down, sure, yeah. But I mean for a game that especially retails at $100, I don't.
Yeah, it's very...
There's plenty of other games out there that aesthetically look so much better.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Like, easily.
Easily.
And it's just there's no reason why a game like this should look
Like
it.
this
look
looks
like it
like what it should look like if you got like a Kickstarter prototype for a game. That's what it looks like. It looks like a prototype.
These look like the storyboards you see for animation movies.
Yes.
That where they drew a rough sketch.
Actually,
of,
the storyboards usually look even better than this.
well, that's because they're by real artists, but they do. It looks like storyboard stuff. Like,
It does.
okay, this is the model we want to use. All right, so let's generate it with a computer.
Let's make it look better.
Or actually draw it
Yeah.
for real, not just
Make it look real.
yeah, not just like a rough sketch. Like it looks like these sketches were done. Like they're all first run sketches. And they
can't be
did them
the
real
same
quick.
artist. It cannot be the same artist as who did the
It
cover.
could be.
But the cover actually looks good.
Maybe he was mad and didn't want, and they weren't paying him enough. I don't know.
Maybe he had to do it too quickly.
Maybe
I
he
I
did.
don't know.
There's 1,000 cards in this game. Maybe he just
there's
gave
a
up.
lot.
After
I
the
mean,
cover, he said, "What? How many cards? Okay, no, I'm not doing that. I'll give you left-handed drawings at that point.
That's
That's
right.
what you get.
That's right.
You know,
He
so
was-
I don't know. I don't know what happened, but hopefully somebody got an earful.
he was totally doing the what was the name of the guy that did the stick figure animation thing?
Oh,
I forget his name now.
yeah.
I don't know why I don't know why I can never remember his name off the top of my head unless I'm not thinking about it. But anyway, yes. That one totally. Left-handed drawing.
That even looked better.
I know. This is the sad part. I do like the meeples though.
But the cutouts are good.
Yeah, and the cutouts are good.
These are
fine,
just circles, but even these are decent. And the meeples are cut perfectly fine, and
these are pretty much standard Carcassonne meeples. It looks like.
yeah, I mean, I guess at this point it's hard to screw up meeples because meeples are everywhere.
I thought it was hard to
But-
screw up designing cards.
But when you do something like this, when you intricately cut
I
pieces
like
like
that.
this,
I like that. That's my favorite part of this.
that means
game,
you're
is
trying.
These pieces.
It means you're trying for something.
Yeah. Well, and look at how they did the ages. You denote. There's two ways you denote the ages in the cards. One is how much color is on the back of the card.
Yep.
Ooh.
Which is
And then-
I don't really like that, but
Yeah. See. And then the slashes at the bottom.
I don't really like that either, to be honest.
I
but-
really don't like that. To be honest with you, I understand that there's not really a lot of ways you can do that because of how small they are, but
At that point, I'm
That's
just I'm copying Seven Wonders and I'm doing 1, 2, 3, 4
yeah,
in Roman
they
numerals
could've
on the back.
They could have done that on the just had the backs of the cards be the age.
Right.
You know, why not?
I don't know.
They use part of the cover and just
I
had
don't
it
know.
do different degrees of how colored in it is. They grayscaled it.
They really blew. They looks like they really blew the budget on the cover
Yeah, it does.
because they used it so many different places.
The cover in these things.
Yeah,
I mean, that's
they said we ran out.
why we have the cubes for the architects. Like, it's funny too because the architect.
Even these are cut out in X's.
Yeah, I know. Well, in the book too. Look at the book's in a book.
Yeah.
Shape, so. But like, if you look at the architect, it's got like a notch in it, and like I feel like
it's
they were
got
probably
it's got the compass thing.
they were
there,
probably
so-
originally planning to put that in, and then they were like, "That's a lot of money. we
Yeah.
blew all our budget on the cover." But yeah, so I'll recommend this game if you can get it for $50 or less. I say go for it. It's a fun game. I really really do enjoy it. It's just
We're not gonna not play it.
it's just ugly. So that's it for this episode of Discard and Draw. I'm Tank, and that's my brother Steel.
Hit that like button, subscribe to our YouTube channel, do what you gotta do, and we will see you in the next review.
This is a great game. Steel, tell me about this game.
This game, I was not prepared for that question, but this game...
I'm so mad at you right now. And so in this example, we've got... Okay.
Sorry, it's gonna be a close-up.
Yeah.
So the thing is... There are... So there are some other cards that are in the pool to buy. I don't know why I said that. Why did
I
say
don't
that?
know.
What is that? Oh my goodness.
Let me ask you this. If you saw someone in a video say that, what would you think?
I would want to punch them in the face.